Hey, and how are you doing today? I am so glad that you are taking part of your lunch. I'm assuming it's your lunch and spending some time with me. So, listen, I want to talk about something that I think is really important. And it's doing simple things like hesitating to say it hurts. Because honesty for you right then and there feels, well, it feels dangerous, even with the people that you love. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is this you? And so, what we're talking about today is emotional labor. And you notice how I just jumped right in because I know your lunchtime is short. So, we're talking about emotional labor like it's a workplace issue, right? But what about the emotional labor of staying silent around, well, even your own mother or your partner, your husband, right? You stay silent, they say something, you're hurt, or do something and you're hurt, and you don't say anything. And you swallow the pain because you don't want to make someone uncomfortable or feel bad about themselves. But what about you? That's the kind of work that no one thanks you for. And it's the kind that actually erodes and eats at you from the inside out because you're the one suffering, because you're the one that's keeping it inside. And so today, what we're doing is we're unlearning the belief that saying I'm hurt is too much, too risky, too needy. And we're asking, why does honesty feel like a threat? Because that's what's holding you back. So, what we're talking about today is a pattern that so many of us fall into. And it's you're hurt, but you say nothing. And I'm going to have a good example for you as we go along, exactly what I'm talking about. But you minimize your hurt, or you spiritualize it, or you intellectualize the pain that you're feeling, that hurt, that stab. Sometimes that hurt feels like someone stabbed you in the chest, right? And you say things to yourself like, oh, it's not important, no biggie, or I must be overreacting. It wasn't all that, right? I'm just overreacting, or I think I'm just reading more into it than it is. It's just me being sensitive, right? Or I'm a bigger person. I'm going to be the bigger person here. I'm the adult. I can be the adult. Well, adults feel pain too. And then you turn the other cheek. You spiritualize it. The Bible says, you know, when you have a problem with someone, you turn the other cheek. I'm not asking you to fight back. I'm asking you to articulate your hurt. That's not fighting. That's being truthful. That's honesty. Or just back to, I'm bigger than this. And then finally, here's one that I hear a lot. They don't care. Even if I told them what I'm feeling, they wouldn't care. Right? And so we say nothing. And I just realized something, that I had the wrong mic on. So let me switch and hopefully the sound gets better, right? So why do we do this? And it's because your brain is telling you that honesty is too dangerous. And it may feel that way, but that's not the truth. It's too dangerous, not for them, but for you. That's what you're really feeling. It's not the danger to them, but it's too dangerous for you to be that vulnerable and open and say what's really on your mind. And so that hesitation that you have, that's not a weakness, but it's a survival habit. And we have a lot of those. And it was at some point that you learned that truth equals rejection. or retaliation or being told that you're the problem. That's your problem. If you take it that way, that's how you take it. That's not how I meant it. And you see all that attitude there? And so that immediately puts your back up. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. That belief doesn't come out of the blue. It gets installed one unresolved moment at a time. An emotional override doesn't feel dramatic. It's not this great big boom or whatever. It's subtle. It feels like the only way to keep it together. And so, what am I talking about here? How many times have someone hurt you or something happened and you felt like you wanted to cry? And you see crying as a weakness. So you saying there is no way I'm going to let someone see me cry right now because I am not weak. I am hurt. I am angry. I am frustrated. But they will not see this as a weakness and they will not use this against me later. And so you've learned the best way to handle that, to stifle that, to swallow that, is to keep it inside. But what if the threat isn't the other person's response? What if the real threat is losing access to your own honesty? Because when you stifle your hurt, you are also stifling your honesty. And that cost to you, when you don't name hurt, what happens is you stop trusting your own signals. You begin to second guess yourself because you're not even sure, is this really what I felt? Or again, am I overlooking it or over exaggerating it, right? Or when you don't voice that pain, that stabbing in the heart, because sometimes that's what it feels like. Somebody literally took a knife and stabbed you in the heart. It hurt. But when you don't voice that pain, you teach your body that your needs don't matter. But they do. And when you never, ever say, this hurts, you train yourself to endure and not to heal. Because how many times have you held on to hurt in your life? And every time you saw that person, or every time you found that you were in that situation again, that old hurt would seem to bubble back up to the surface. And you just couldn't let it go. And that's because you never healed. Because you were never able to voice it, to say it, to purge it. And what that is, in my books, is emotional hijacking. You're allowing your emotions to be hijacked so that you have a unrealistic, unhonest response or reaction. And you have nullified that emotional partnership between your mind, your thoughts, your body, your actions, your beliefs, your emotions, your feelings. They're no longer in partnership because you allowed them to be hijacked. There is no badge, none, no badge for being unbothered. Because girl, you are not unbothered. There is no crown for staying silent, and you're not more noble when you suffer quietly. You're just more alone. And if I'm talking to you out there, go ahead and just raise your hand in the comments or say, that's me. Because you're not alone. But if you allow this to keep going on, you can be. Honesty isn't confrontation. It's clarity. It's not about winning. It's about witnessing. And when I say witnessing, is having knowledge of something, your hurt, from a personal observation or experience. And what you're doing is you're sharing that observation of how that comment, that action, or whatever that is impacted you. That's relationship, when you can have those kind of conversations. Sometimes the point isn't to be misunderstood or be understood. Let me get that straight. It's to stop abandoning yourself. They may never understand you. The people that you talk to, the people that you love, the people in your family may never understand you. The people that you work with may never understand you to the capacity that you wish that you would be understood. Never. But you can say you never abandoned yourself. And so before we leave, because our time is short, I want to do one practical takeaway with you. I want you to have something that you can break or interrupt this pattern of saying, I'm hurt, the next time it shows up in your life. And before we do this practical takeaway, I want to share something with you. When I had to use the interruption this last week, I was on the phone and I was talking to someone. And for the sake of privacy, I'm not going to say who, but I may have to. And they did something that hurt me. I mean, it hurt me deeply because I thought, because of who I was to them, they would never do that to me. I knew they did it to other people, but because who I was to them, I was like, I know they didn't just do that to me. I mean, it was such disbelief that that was done to me. And so I said, you know what? I need to get off the phone. And I hung up. We said our goodbyes. And I kept thinking about it because that's the thing about that hurt. It won't go away. And I kept thinking about it. And for a few minutes, I'm like, just let it go. They don't get it. And I said, no, I can't let it go. And so I sent a text. Text is not always the best way to do things or send things, but I sent a text because I knew in this situation, a conversation wasn't the right way. And I sent the text and I said, that really hurt me. I am this to you. And I never thought that you would do something like that to me. And I just needed you to know that. And I got a text back later that day and it said, I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry. It said, but you have to understand that I know what I'm doing. I've researched it. And I don't need to be lectured. And when I thought about that, I was okay. I could let the hurt go because I was able to see the other side of the equation. I was able to see how I affected them as well. But the point is, because I allowed myself to share that hurt, there was a resolution and I healed. And so this week, what I want you to do is choose one moment this week when you feel hurt or you felt hurt or unseen or dismissed. And instead of burying it or explaining it away, I want you to write one line to capture it. Not a journal entry, not a novel, just one line to capture it. And to give you a good example of what I'm talking about, it could be something like, it hurt when she brushed off what I was so excited about. And my family is good for saying I always burst somebody's bubble because I have the words of reason, right? So saying something like that, or I felt invisible when I wasn't acknowledged. You didn't even acknowledge me. Or even something like, that made me feel like a child again. And I'm an adult. I'm grown. Treat me like that. And the point is to witness your truth without needing it to be received or validated or agreed with. But that you witness your truth. Because the first step to healing and changing this pattern is not whether you're being heard by others, but it's hearing yourself and recognizing this is what I feel. And so we're almost finished. This week, I want you to pay attention to where you hesitate. And when that moment comes, the one where you want to say that hurts, pause. Just stop for a minute. Not to hold it in, but to ask, what's the truth that I'm swallowing right now? And what would it cost me if I kept it down? Remember the cost that we talked about, that when you keep this hurt inside, that it doesn't allow you to heal? What is that cost of you keeping it in? And look, if this message resonates with you, if you feel seen or exposed or even relieved, then maybe the emotional reset experience, a one-on-one with me, is where you're being led next. Where we break one pattern together so you know what it feels like. And it's private, and it's invitation only, and it's not for everyone. But if you're sensing an alignment, go ahead and comment reset, and I'll reach out to you to discern. And look, you're allowed to name that hurt. You're allowed to stop pretending that it doesn't matter. Because the real you, that awesome you, the whole you, is not too much. She's just waiting to be heard. And so thank you for being on the Unlearning Break Time Live. I'm Mischelle O'Neill. And until next time, take care. See you next week. Bye-bye.